Perhaps you joined me today because we're talking about sex. Coming up on Pastor Bob's Coffee Break. Our cool mugs, you have to have one of these for the summer. We have them in actually 3 different kinds. This one is our metal dude. Sanctuary, we are metal, we are family. And, travel mugs are an important thing, especially during the summer. And this is one of our bigger ones. There's a bigger one there, and there's 2 more travel mugs there. We got a bunch. And you'll find all of that, plus the right coffee to put inside. HEADBANGERS BREW. All right here. We are metal, we are family.com. Dear Pastor Bob, I've been engaged to my girlfriend for 4 months. 2 weeks ago, we decided to move in together. Her Christian family is freaking out. We're in a committed relationship, and I don't see a problem with having sex before our marriage. In your opinion, did we do the wrong thing? In my opinion, yes, you did. And let's talk about this because, when I was growing up, this was unheard of. People would never have done this. They never would have moved in. There was such an emphasis on remaining pure until marriage. Today, it's commonplace. I had to make a decision at one point in my pastoral career whether or not I was going to do weddings with couples that had already moved in together. And it just felt like, it was a struggle for me to do it because I thought this is really a violation. But it's the way people are thinking these days. Statistically, 57% of evangelical Protestants, just choosing this one area of Christian belief, 57% say sex between unmarried adults in a committed relationship is sometimes or always acceptable. 57%, the majority. Never was this way before. We just kind of got used to this being a normal thing. And what does it lead to? Well, plenty. 54% of the same crowd say that casual sex between consenting adults who are not in a committed romantic relationship is sometimes or always acceptable, more than half. How do we get that? And how do we so quickly leave the Bible out of this? Seriously. And why would God say this anyway? Why would he keep people who love each other from having sex, an act of love, right? The bottom line is this, folks. God really desires for sex and commitment to be secure. How many people have you known that have broken up during their engagement? Seriously. And how many are having difficult times and saying, we're in a committed relationship, and they start having sex, and sometimes the sexual part is the very thing that drives them apart. Why? Because it's an act of commitment and deeper love. At least it's supposed to be. You see, honor and love are closely related. Closely related. If I honor you, if I look at you as precious, and if I see you as my life partner, then I take care of you and I do all the right things. And I make sure that our love is on the right foundation to build on. Is sexuality going to be an issue? Of course it is. Am I going to be tempted to have sex with my girlfriend before we're married? Of course you are. But you have to decide something somewhere. You have to decide what's important. You know, I've had a lot of experience in counseling, a lot of it, and a lot of experience with counseling with couples that are struggling. And my experience with couples who have had sex before marriage is pretty common to a few difficulties later. More than once, women have told me that they trust their husbands less because of it. In other words, if he had sex with me before we got married, who's he having sex with now? You say, Pastor Bob, that wouldn't happen. Oh, yes, it does. Plenty. It's a trust issue, and it's a care issue. And if my husband, and women are guilty too, but if it was so important that we had sex before marriage and it was important to prove my love and all this kind of stuff, buzzwords that people use just to satisfy sexual desires, then who's he having sex with now? It's a common thing. And men who give in before marriage are more tempted to give in during the marriage as well. Absolutely. So it's a lose-lose situation for both. And here's some tougher statistics. 65% of married Christian men will have either an emotional or a sexual affair by the time they are 40. 65%, either emotional or sexual. And you know that emotional is just as bad, especially for a woman. That's the whole thing. Why aren't people talking about this more? Why aren't more pastors preaching about it? Because many of them are guilty too. 23% of Protestant pastors admitted to sexually inappropriate behavior with someone other than their wives during their ministry. Well, what do you do with all of this? Folks, life is not easy. Controlling yourself is not easy. There are decisions that you need to make before you get there. You know, we have a mug that says, fight the battle before the battle. It's really an important aspect of our lives. You know you're going to be tempted. You know it's going to be a difficulty. Why wait until that point when it's a difficulty to make a decision? When you're driving really fast and all of a sudden you decide to stop, it might take longer to stop than what you have. What if the brakes don't work? Fight the battle before the battle. Say, I'm going to be tempted in this area. And so I'm going to use what we call threshold thinking. We should visit this again. We've talked about it before. But threshold thinking, taking that thought captive at the threshold of my mind and having a plan for it. When I am tempted sexually, here is what I'm going to do. And plan for it, rehearse it. It's not a stranger when it happens. You're not surprised when you feel that way. And you have a plan to go another direction. If you don't plan, you will most likely fail. 65% of married men, Christian married men before the age of 40, 65% have had an emotional or a physical affair. You have a decision to make. The decision isn't whatever feels good, do it. The decision is, I want to follow God, and I want the relationship that I have with my spouse to be one of significance, one of depth, and one of protection. And I want to not only protect, but I want to make sure that I honor the relationship, honor it. And so my wife feels cared for, she feels honored. Husbands feel the same way. Let's turn to Hebrews chapter 13 and verse 4. And it says, "Let marriage be held in honor, esteemed worthy, precious, of great price, and especially dear in all things. And thus let the marriage bed be undefiled." Why? Because it makes a difference. And if I look at my marriage and I want to esteem it worthy and precious and of great price, valuable, and especially dear to my heart, all of those things are important in marriage, because marriage isn't easy. Don't use one more thing that works against you, but save love for the marriage bed and express it in a deeper way, in an emotional way, in a spiritual way. Let it happen without guilt. Let it happen without repercussions. Let it happen without remorse. Folks, I guarantee you that if that happens, you'll put yourself in a whole different place. There are so many people out there, maybe you're one of them, that say, man, I wished I would have waited because I see the harm that it did. I could spend days on this one because it really does. And in my experience in counseling, it's huge. It is huge. And no matter what everybody says, well, it's just a way of expression. It's just saying sex is just sex. What's the big deal? How did God design it? It is a big deal. It is something to plan for. It's something to fight the battle before the battle with. And it's something to hold in high esteem. Folks, don't forget, you are blessed. So go and be a blessing.